Everyone has a dream until rent is due. Everyone is creative until survival taps them on the shoulder and says, "Be realistic." And that thought makes me sad in a way I don't even know how to explain properly. Because there are people out there, talented people, who will never be seen. Not because they weren't good enough, not because they didn't try, but because life demanded payment, rent, food, transport, bills. So the music stays unheard, the stories stay unwritten, the ideas stay in notes apps and old hard drives, and instead, those people sit in offices or shops or warehouses, doing work that barely feeds their soul but just barely keeps them alive. That's the part that hurts. Not failure, not rejection, but never even getting to try properly. We live in a world where creativity is treated like a luxury, something you do after work, after exhaustion, after stress, after you've given your best energy away just to survive. And then people wonder why everything feels soulless, why content feels empty, why everything looks the same, why art feels algorithmic. It's because the real artists are tired. They're clocking in. They're counting coins. They're being told to be grateful while slowly burying the part of themselves that wanted more. I think about how many amazing videos, songs, films, ideas we'll never see. Not because talent is rare, but because time and energy are. Rent doesn't care about your potential. Bills don't care about your vision. And that's brutal. What makes it worse is how normalized this is. You say you want to create, and people immediately ask, "But what's your real job?" As if dreaming is childish. As if survival is the only acceptable goal. You're constantly reminded that passion doesn't pay, that art is risky, that security matters more. And maybe they're right. But knowing that doesn't make it hurt less. Because deep down, you feel it. That quiet grief for the version of yourself that could have been something more if life wasn't so expensive. And the scummiest part? We're forced to work for corporations that don't care about us, producing things we don't believe in, feeding systems that are actively ruining us, mentally, creatively, emotionally, just to stay afloat. Not to thrive, just to exist. We trade our best years for stability and call it maturity, but it doesn't feel mature. It feels like surrender. And when people tell me, "Just get a job," I know they mean well. But what I hear is, "Give up quietly like the rest of us." And that terrifies me. Because I don't want to wake up one day realizing my creativity died not from lack of talent, but from lack of time. What hurts the most is realizing this isn't an accident. The system isn't broken, it's working exactly how it was designed. It keeps people tired, distracted, just comfortable enough not to revolt, just desperate enough not to dream too big. Because creativity needs space, and space is expensive. Time, energy, mental quiet. Most people don't have that. They come home drained, scroll for an hour, fall asleep, repeat, not because they're lazy, but because survival consumes everything. And then we shame them for not creating. We say things like, "If you really wanted it, you'd make time." That's easy to say when your rent isn't swallowing half your income and your mind isn't fried from work. Some of the most talented people I know are invisible. Not online, in life. Their ideas are sharp, their perspectives are deep, their creativity is insane, but you'll never find them trending. You'll find them commuting. You'll find them answering emails. You'll find them doing overtime for a company that would replace them in a week. And the worst part is how this shapes what we consume. We're watching content optimized for algorithms, not for meaning, because the people who can afford to create full-time aren't always the most talented. They're the most resourced. So the ecosystem gets distorted. It rewards consistency over depth, volume over thought, trends over truth. Meanwhile, real stories rot in cubicles, real voices get silenced by exhaustion, real art dies quietly because it didn't fit into a 9-to-5 survival schedule. And that takes a toll on everyone. People feel empty and don't know why. They feel like something's missing but can't name it. It's because we're starving creatively. We're surrounded by noise but deprived of soul. And personally, this messes with me. Because every time I'm told to just get a job, I hear a countdown. I hear time slipping. I hear my creative window shrinking while I'm being asked to trade it for security that isn't even guaranteed. It creates this constant tension. You're told to be patient but also realistic, to dream but not too loudly, to create but only if it doesn't interfere with productivity, and living like that slowly erodes you.
You start doubting yourself. You start minimizing your dreams. You start calling passion impractical just so it hurts less to abandon it. That's the quiet tragedy. Not failure, but self-betrayal. What nobody talks about is the guilt of still wanting this when the world keeps telling you it's unrealistic. There's guilt for not giving in completely, and guilt for not fully committing either. You feel stuck in between, too creative to shut up, too broke to feel safe. Every day feels like a negotiation between survival and self-respect. You wake up thinking about money before you think about ideas, and that messes with your head. Because creativity doesn't like pressure. It doesn't like deadlines tied to hunger. It doesn't like being rushed by fear of eviction. So you start creating from anxiety instead of curiosity, and it shows. Even when you love what you're making, there's this background noise. What if this never works? What if I'm wasting time? What if everyone was right? That voice never shuts up. And when people around you say, just get a job, they don't see what they're asking you to sacrifice. They don't see the part of you that feels alive when you're creating. They just see risk, instability, delay. So you start doubting yourself on their behalf. You start pre-rejecting your own dreams to avoid the embarrassment of failing publicly. And yet, you keep coming back. That's the part that confuses me the most. No matter how tired I am, no matter how discouraged, I still feel pulled toward creating. Even when it hurts. Even when it's lonely. Even when it feels irresponsible. It's not because I think I'm special. It's because not creating feels worse. It feels like suffocating quietly while everyone claps for your stability. And that's when the sadness really hits. Knowing that so many people felt this same pull and had to silence it. Not because they wanted to, but because they had no choice. That's what makes this bigger than me. This isn't about YouTube, or art, or content. It's about a world that demands productivity before meaning. A world that turns survival into a full-time job and then wonders why people feel empty. I don't have a neat ending for this. I don't have advice that fixes rent. I don't have motivation that pays bills. All I have is this feeling that something is wrong when so much human potential is locked behind paywalls of exhaustion. And if you feel this too, if you're tired of choosing survival over self-expression over and over again, you're not lazy. You're not delusional. You're not alone. You're just trying to stay alive in a system that makes dreaming expensive. And yeah, that hurts.